After 12 years of marriage, Tom thought he knew his wife. But when her cold detachment turns into outright contempt, he doesn't explode. He evolves. What starts as distance becomes strategy, and what she thought was control becomes the biggest miscalculation of her life. This isn't just a story of infidelity. It's a blueprint for self-respect and the ultimate legal revenge. It started on a Friday, the kind where the week's pressure leaves a permanent knot in your back. Tom arrived home just after 6. The scent of lemon cleaner hung in the air, a sign the housekeeper had been by. Normally, that gave him a brief moment of comfort. Not today. He walked into the kitchen and poured himself a bourbon, neat, no ice, no pause, just the sharp bite of something stronger than the silence. Sarah walked in while he was still leaning on the counter, yoga gear, ponytail, phone in hand, scrolling like the world depended on whatever was on that screen. She didn't even glance up. Tom tried to bridge the gap. "Any plans for the weekend? I thought we could hit the lake. Maybe that diner you like." Her thumb kept moving. "I've got my own plans. You do you." The words weren't angry. They were worse, emotionless, distant, like she was talking to a coworker, not her husband of 12 years. He paused mid-sip, just trying to get on the same page. She looked up finally. Her expression wasn't angry. It was dismissive. "I've got my life. You've got yours. Don't crowd me." The line hit harder than any argument ever could. There were no raised voices, no accusations, just a declaration. She was already gone, and she hadn't bothered to take her body with her. Tom didn't press, didn't chase. He took the rest of his bourbon and walked to the garage. Not to cool off, but to think. If it had ended there, maybe he could have written it off as a bad day. But it wasn't a day. It was a warning, and he'd be a fool to ignore it. He booted up his old laptop on a folding chair surrounded by the scent of oil and sawdust. There, under the dim garage light, he made his first move. A solo weekend at their lake house. No discussion, no note, just action. He texted Mike, his buddy from college, a contractor with a quick wit and no filter. "Fishing this weekend. You in?" "Hell yes." 7 a.m. came the reply. The next morning, Tom was on the road before sunrise. Coffee in a thermos, fishing gear tossed in the back. Sarah's door was closed when he left. He didn't bother knocking. Halfway to the lake, his phone buzzed. "Sarah, where are you?" "Tom, lake house. You said you had plans." He didn't add emojis. He didn't soften the message. Just facts. At the dock, Mike was already waiting, tossing a cooler into the boat. "Trouble in paradise?" he asked, cracking a beer. Tom shrugged. "She wants space. I'm giving it to her." They spent the morning in silence, lines cast into still water. Mike eventually broke it. "Karen says Sarah's been off lately, on her phone all the time, planning stuff solo." Tom nodded, reeling in his line. "She told me not to crowd her, so I'm not." Mike snorted. "She's the one who always had you running around like an errand boy. Remember last 4th of July? He remembered. She'd been working the crowd, networking with wine club ladies, while he played host and bartender. "Yeah," Tom said flatly. "That version of me? Gone." Mike raised his beer. "About damn time." They didn't need to talk much more after that. The lake didn't care about drama, and neither did Tom anymore. By Sunday night, he was back home. Sarah was in the living room watching a reality show, acting like nothing had happened. "You didn't say you were leaving," she said, eyes still on the TV. Tom dropped his bag by the door. "You didn't say your plans either. Figured we're both adults." She rolled her eyes. He caught a flicker of surprise, like she expected him to beg for her attention. "You could have at least texted," she said. "I did," he replied, grabbing a beer. "You want space, Sarah? You got it." She opened her mouth, closed it again. He didn't wait. He walked upstairs. And that was the beginning, not of a fight, but of a shift. No more chasing, no more guessing. If Sarah wanted independence, she could have it. But so could he. By Monday morning, Tom was already changing gears. At the office, he blocked off his Friday afternoons. No more open weekends waiting to see if Sarah wanted to make plans. He had golf lined up with Mike and a couple of his crew, something they'd talked about for years and never done. His assistant Carla, sharp and observant, caught the change in him right away. You look different, she said, handing over reports. Just getting focused, he replied. Focused was right. That evening, Tom called his accountant, Greg. Pull everything that's joint, split it. I want clean lines between mine and hers. Greg hesitated. That's a big move. Tom didn't waver. She wants her independence. I'm giving it to her. Back home, Sarah was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with a little too much force. She mentioned a dinner with the neighbors, the Hendersons. I'm out, Tom said. Got other plans. She stopped mid-motion. Since when? Since now. She didn't argue. Not directly, just nodded and went back to chopping, her tension radiating through the silence. Tom didn't offer explanations. He didn't owe her one. That night, he met Mike and Dan at a bar downtown. Mike's brother Dan was blunt to a fault, with the kind of humor that didn't care about filters. You finally growing a pair? Dan asked, laughing over a beer. Tom didn't bite. Just living my life, same as she said she wanted. Mike leaned in, more serious. She's not gonna like this. Sarah's always needed to be in control. Then she'll have to adjust, Tom replied. The shift was happening fast, but not recklessly. Every move Tom made was calculated. Step by step, he was taking back his time, his money, his presence. And he wasn't hiding it. Sarah started noticing the change. She complained when he missed the dinner. You didn't even show up for one meal, she snapped. You didn't ask me to, Tom said. You made your own plans. I'm making mine. She followed him up the stairs, demanding explanations, calling him selfish. Tom stayed calm. You set the tone. I'm just matching it. No yelling, no escalation, just truth. Later that week, they went to a barbecue at Mike's house, a backyard full of neighbors and friends. Sarah tried to play the social card, smiling, chatting, pretending everything was fine. But when she cornered Tom by the grill and whispered, You're embarrassing me, he didn't back down. I'm here. You don't get to script how I act. She tried to pull rank again, hinting that he was in one of his moods. Tom didn't raise his voice, but he made sure people heard. Not a mood, just clarity. Sarah walked off, pretending to laugh, but the tension was visible. People noticed. The message was clear. Tom was no longer operating under her control. He wasn't trying to win her back. He wasn't even trying to win. He was done playing. The next week, Sarah tried another tactic. She invited herself to a client dinner, a networking opportunity at a steakhouse. Tom let her come. He knew what she was doing, trying to reframe the story in public, make him look like the distant husband. The problem. Midway through dinner, she leaned across the table, fake smile on full display. Tom's been so busy lately, Jim. I barely see him. Tom didn't blink. I thought that's what you wanted, Sarah, your own life. I'm just giving you room. The mood at the table shifted. Carla raised an eyebrow. Ellen, Jim's wife, gave Sarah a side glance. Even Jim, the client, looked uncomfortable. Sarah tried to laugh it off. He's just dramatic. Tom leaned back, voice calm. No, just honest. The next morning, Tom met with a realtor. Diane, who'd handled a property for his company before, didn't ask many questions. I need a one-bedroom, downtown, no fuss. You moving out? She asked. Just moving forward, Tom said. By the end of the week, he'd signed the lease. That night, back at the house, Sarah confronted him. You're moving out? He didn't stall. Next week, I'll cover my half of the mortgage until we sell the place. You can decide what you want to do. Her voice cracked just slightly. You're serious? As a heart attack. Sarah tried to pivot again, accused him of being impulsive, of blowing up a marriage over a few bad weeks. Tom didn't argue. This isn't sudden, it's a response. He went upstairs and started packing. She didn't follow. Tom moved into his downtown condo on a Tuesday. No fanfare, no announcement. Just a text to Sarah. Keys turned in, condo address below. We'll discuss logistics soon. She showed up at 7 p.m. that night. Not to talk, at least not honestly. Her tone was defensive before she even stepped inside. So this is it? You're really doing this? Tom didn't get up from the couch. I already did. Sarah walked the room like it was a crime scene. She didn't comment on the furniture or the space. That wasn't the point. She was looking for cracks in his decision. There weren't any. You can't just walk out, she said, her voice clipped. You walked out emotionally months ago. I'm just catching up physically. She tried to redirect the narrative, claimed he was being petty, cold, immature, said no man just walks away from 12 years over a few rough months. Tom stood calm. It wasn't months, Sarah. It was a pattern. Dismissiveness, control, constant distance unless you needed something. I gave you space. Now I'm claiming mine. She didn't respond. Not really. She just stared, expecting him to fold. He didn't. That week, Sarah started damage control. She told mutual friends Tom was acting out, going through something, even hinted at a midlife crisis. Karen repeated it to Mike. Mike told Tom. Tom just laughed. If this is a crisis, I'm enjoying it. Sarah also tried another tactic, playing the financial card. One evening, while Tom was finishing a call with a client, she barged in. I need money for a spa weekend. Karen and I are going. It's booked. Tom ended the call, turned to her. You've got your own account. Her expression hardened. Don't do this. It's our money. No, Tom said. It was. Now it's yours and mine. You wanted your life. It comes with your own bills. She accused him of weaponizing money, of trying to punish her. He didn't flinch. You set the terms. I'm just following them. Later that week, she tried to corner him again, this time in front of others. They were at a restaurant with her coworker Rachel and Rachel's husband, Paul. Rachel was all charm and small talk. Paul mostly listened. Halfway through appetizers, Sarah made her move. Tom's become very independent lately, she said with a forced laugh. Barely see him these days. Rachel laughed politely. Paul didn't. Tom didn't miss a beat. I thought that was the goal, Sarah. You said you didn't want to be crowded. Rachel blinked. Paul raised an eyebrow. Sarah rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. I'm not. I'm just not playing along with the version of this marriage that only works for you. Paul coughed into his napkin. Rachel shifted the subject. Sarah didn't try again for the rest of the dinner. But she was losing control, and she knew it. A few nights later, Tom was home when she called. No preamble. I need to talk to you, in person. You know where I am, Tom replied, and hung up. She showed up within the hour. Arms crossed, heels loud on the hardwood. This is insane. You're blowing everything up. Tom stood in the doorway, blocking her path past the entrance. No, Sarah, I'm cleaning up. There's a difference. She stared at him, looking for the old version of him, the one who used to hesitate, who used to accommodate. But he wasn't there anymore. You think this makes you the good guy? She asked, voice low. No, he said. It makes me free. He didn't slam the door when she left. He didn't need to. The message had landed. From that point on, her tactics became scattered. She'd alternate between sending nostalgic texts, old photos, inside jokes, and angry messages about responsibility and appearances. One day she'd say she missed him. The next she'd accuse him of abandoning her. Tom never took the bait. He responded only when necessary, always short, always neutral. Meanwhile, his life stabilized. The condo felt like peace. No tension, no guessing games. Work was steady. His new client deal brought in more business than expected. Weekends were his again. Golf trips, fishing with Mike, poker with Dan's crew. No one asking where he was going or why. The most unexpected part? The social circle didn't turn against him. If anything, they leaned in closer. More than a few people reached out to say, I never understood how you put up with it for so long. Even Sarah's closest friends stopped defending her so publicly. The narrative wasn't working anymore. She tried one final move, showing up at his condo unannounced. I've been thinking, she said, maybe we moved too fast. Tom didn't invite her in. No, Sarah, you made your choices. You asked for space. I gave it. You wanted control. I let go. Her expression flickered. But I didn't mean, you did. You just didn't expect consequences. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She turned, walked back to the elevator. Tom didn't watch the door close. He poured a bourbon, opened his laptop, and booked another weekend trip, this time just for himself. The move was final. Tom no longer lived in the same house, played by the same rules, or answered to the same expectations. He wasn't angry anymore, just finished. Sarah, on the other hand, began unraveling. It started small, texts sent late at night trying to restart casual conversation. He ignored them unless they involved finances or property. When she realized silence didn't bring him back, she shifted strategies again. Her tone changed from nostalgic to passive-aggressive. "You could have fought for us," one message read. Tom didn't reply. Then came the social pressure. Sarah talked to mutual friends, painting herself as abandoned. At barbecues and dinner parties, she played the role of the confused wife, still hoping Tom comes to his senses. But the act was wearing thin. People had seen enough. Her public dismissals, her power plays, her cold sarcasm in social settings. They weren't buying the helpless victim story. Even her closest ally, Karen, pulled back. Mike told Tom over a beer, "Karen said Sarah's been hard to be around. Always defensive, always blaming you." Tom didn't celebrate that. He wasn't trying to win anyone's approval, but it was telling. Meanwhile, Tom's life settled into rhythm. The condo was quiet, work was productive, and weekends were exactly what he wanted them to be. He wasn't chasing distractions. He was focused, clear, and, for the first time in years, calm. He also started protecting his peace with precision. At one point, Sarah tried to loop him back into her calendar. She emailed a shared invitation to a holiday dinner with some old family friends. He declined without explanation. A simple not attending was enough. She replied with a 4-paragraph rant about appearances, respect, and family expectations. He archived it. Another time she forgot to tell him about a service appointment at the house, one she had scheduled during his legal half-day presence. When the technician called him, confused, Tom showed up, signed the paperwork, and left. No call to Sarah, no confrontation. She tried using that too, telling a mutual acquaintance that Tom was being hostile and distant. Tom didn't argue. He didn't explain. He let the silence do the talking. The legal process began quietly. They had no kids. Just property, assets, and a house that neither wanted to fight over. Tom suggested selling it. Sarah resisted. "It's still my home," she said in a call. "You can buy me out or we list it, but I'm not holding the mortgage forever." Eventually, she agreed to sell. Diane, the realtor, handled everything. Tom didn't attend open houses. He signed documents electronically and let the timeline unfold. At one point, Diane told him, "She's been difficult, asking questions that don't matter, dragging her feet." Tom replied, "She's not used to losing control." The sale closed 2 months later. Tom's share of the proceeds went straight into a personal investment account. Sarah called that night. "So that's it?" she asked. "Legally, yes," Tom replied. "Emotionally, it ended the night you told me not to crowd you." She went quiet. Then came her final attempt, emotional leverage. "You really meant to walk away forever?" "I didn't walk away," he said calmly. "I backed off when you asked me to. You just didn't expect me to stay gone." No yelling, no drama, just a fact she hadn't prepared for. Over the next few weeks, she continued to send occasional texts. Some were reflective, others were thinly veiled jabs. But they always ended the same way. No reply unless necessary, no engagement beyond logistics. Tom was no longer playing a role in her script. He was the editor now, and he'd already written his last scene. The consequences weren't explosive. They were quiet, cumulative, and permanent. Friends adjusted, some stayed neutral. Others drifted toward Tom naturally. His reputation hadn't been built on drama. It was built on consistency. People respected that. Even Rachel, her coworker, reached out. "Just checking in. You seem better." "I am," he said. "I just stopped waiting for someone else to value me." She paused. "I think she expected you to wait around forever." "I know. That's why I didn't." Tom wasn't trying to hurt Sarah. He wasn't trying to win. He was just enforcing the boundaries she'd created but never expected to be real. He'd let go. 6 months passed. Tom's condo felt more like home than the house he'd shared with Sarah ever did. No more eggshells, no calendar filled with someone else's priorities, no more checking his words to avoid passive jabs. Just quiet mornings, steady work, and control over his time. He didn't become someone new, he just returned to who he was before compromise turned into submission. Work thrived. His firm expanded into a new region, and Tom led the logistics on the transition. He didn't throw himself into it to avoid his personal life. He did it because he had clarity now. Energy once spent managing a strained relationship was redirected toward building something real, something productive. Mike and Dan remained regular fixtures: fishing trips, golf weekends, poker nights. Simple things that reminded Tom what respect looked like between people who didn't expect each other to beg for attention. Sarah, meanwhile, stayed in the same town, still spinning the same narrative, at least at first. She told people Tom had a breakdown, called his new life a midlife crisis, claimed he left because he couldn't handle a strong woman. But over time, even those claims faded. People noticed the pattern. He wasn't lashing out. He wasn't posting emotional status updates or looking for sympathy. He was just living, quietly, responsibly, with purpose. The contrast spoke louder than any defense ever could. One afternoon, Tom bumped into Rachel, Sarah's coworker, at a grocery store. She gave him a long look. "You look better," she said. "I feel better," he replied. "I didn't realize how tense you were before," she said carefully. "I didn't either," he admitted. "You get used to dysfunction, it becomes routine." She nodded. "I think she thought you'd eventually apologize." Tom shook his head. "I used to think silence kept the peace. Turns out, it just delays the fallout." They parted ways with a polite goodbye. No bitterness, just understanding. As for Sarah, the silence from Tom became its own message. She couldn't provoke him, couldn't shame him, couldn't lure him back with guilt or nostalgia. And that loss of control, after years of setting the rules, hit harder than any loud argument ever would. She had built a world where she was the center, assuming Tom would orbit indefinitely. But when he stepped away, the gravity broke. Eventually, the text stopped. So did the attempts to provoke a response through friends. There was no grand final showdown, no last-ditch apology, just a slow fading of relevance. Tom still handled shared legal matters, signed documents, paid what was fair, but there was no emotion behind it anymore. Just responsibility, done without resentment. The real victory wasn't a dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. It was peace. Tom didn't rebuild his life out of spite. He rebuilt it because he finally saw his own worth. He didn't need to prove Sarah wrong. He just needed to stop betraying himself by staying where he wasn't valued. There's a belief that revenge has to be loud, calculated, or cruel. But Tom's story proved the opposite. Real revenge is living better without someone who expected you to stay broken. It's not about getting even. It's about getting free.